Put the mic where your mouth is.
Yes, sir.
All right, man, let's keep it moving. Next topic.
Broadcasting from sea to shining sea, 0400 Across the Street Productions presents the 0400 Across the Street Sports Pod Report. Now, here are your hosts, Derek Little and Jay Taylor. Yes, sir. Today is October the 11th, 2016, and you already know we are back in the booth talking about this crazy weekend of action in the NFL. Let's go. You already know, as usual, we have a great show on tap for you. And as always, big time news, big time show. Can't wait. All and more on tap for you on this podcast.
Absolutely. Glad to be back with you. We want to get into this past weekend's NFL action.
Indeed.
A lot of ups, a lot of downs.
A lot of them.
I know you on the up. You know I'm on the down.
I'm not going to say anything about it.
Nah, you done said all you needed to say.
I'm not going to say nothing.
That's why.
I'm not going to say nothing.
Yo, we're going to go ahead and start with the most recent. Last night, we had the Cubs and Giants.
Yeah. That's where you want to start? That's where you want to start?
Hey,
how about
Giants
we start on the Monday Night Football
versus
game?
the Cubs, in case anybody stayed up to watch the game.
Right.
5-8. Yeah, like you got about 2 baseball games worth of action there in that one game.
Yeah.
Cubs still lead 2-1. I still expect them to go on and win.
Yeah.
But let's go on and kick it back to the NFL.
No. Let's stay there for a quick second. My Nationals, they're up 2-1, right?
Yeah.
They're out on the West Coast. They'll be playing again today. There's word that Steven Strasburg has thrown a little bit of a bullpen session, so hopefully they can get him back. It was a good game. They won 8-3 yesterday, but the long game, the problem with the game yesterday was the fact that it was a 4-hour game.
Yeah.
Okay. 4-hour game on just a regular game. The problem is that the managers in the playoffs, they tend to go to the mound a lot more, your pitching coaches and so on and so forth. That Giants game last night went into, I think it was the 13th inning?
Yeah.
Forever.
Yes.
So if you're on the East Coast, there's a good chance that you didn't see that game.
Watch it. Nah.
And you wake up this morning, you find out that the Giants did come back. This is the same nucleus.
I think they came back 2-run.
Right.
2-run, yeah.
Absolutely. And this is the same nucleus that 1-10, 1-12, and 1 again in 14. For the most part, you still have some of the same players there.
It's a strong squad, man.
Very strong squad. And doubt has to start to creep into the Cubs' mind.
Yeah.
You know, the history of not winning.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the people in Chicago, we've seen some brilliant things happen this year with the Cleveland Cavaliers and so on and so forth.
They want to get that energy.
They want to get that energy in Chicago.
For them right now.
I tell you what, they have to win. They have to win this series.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Hey, well, let's get back to this Monday Night Football.
They had a game?
Yeah, there was a game. There was a game there in Charlotte, North Carolina. Your home state. Yeah. Your home team.
Yeah.
The Panthers.
Hey, NFC South division rivals going at it.
Yeah.
And the Bucks and so first off, it was a sloppy game.
Okay.
From the get-go.
I'll give you that.
Both teams making a lot of penalties, putting themselves in very bad position. Carolina obviously won that battle of making horrible calls, horrible penalties, and just horrible plays altogether.
Right.
And Cam Newton obviously out in the concussion protocol.
Right.
And not seeing him on the field with the team really lets you know how much he means to the team.
Right. I mean, he does it all.
It is a totally different team.
It's a different team.
It's a different team.
Yeah.
So they had to take that, go forward. I think they did a good job on the ground. Okay. They outgained Tampa on the ground. Tampa just pounded the ball out. I think they ran the ball 35 times. If I'm not mistaken. 37 times.
37 times.
And 113 yards on the ground for Tampa.
Right.
Carolina, 25 rushes altogether between Artis Payne and Fozzie Whitaker, 136 yards. So
right. And they were a little bit more productive.
Averaging 5.5 yards on the ground.
Absolutely.
Why they didn't use that run at the goal line where Derek Anderson threw one of his interceptions?
Yes.
I don't know.
I have no idea. But that was a great play, though, because he was trailing off of his guy.
Yeah.
His guy, I think it was Greg Olsen that had flashed. and he was able to leave Greg Olsen to make the interception.
Right.
That was just a great play. You don't anticipate
it was a good play.
the DB making that type of
But it was an even
move.
dumber play by Derek Anderson.
Right.
It reminded us that he is a backup for a reason.
For a reason.
And he can move the ball between the 20s.
Absolutely.
But then the decision making is just not there sometimes. He missed Greg Olsen on a crossing route for a touchdown earlier in that game. And, talking about Greg Olsen real quick, I do want to give him props. This is still my team.
Right.
9 receptions, 181 yards.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if they win this game, we're talking about his performance.
Yeah.
Okay. Instead, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They gritted it out. They really did.
Yeah. Because
they had a lot of things. They shot themselves in the foot a couple times down there with penalties and whatnot, moving them back out of position. But Carolina's got a lot of soul searching to do, and I don't think I can't see them getting back to a position to get themselves in the playoffs this year. I can't see it.
Here's the thing with this game. First and foremost, let's talk about Tampa Bay. All right, so Tampa Bay with Jameis Winston, they ran the ball with Jacquizz Rodgers 30 times for 101 yards. Okay, That's dedication. That's dedication. You're just going to run it
Absolutely.
up in there. 3.4 yards a carry. You're just you're just committed to the fact that that's what you're going to do. That's your game plan. The problem that I had with Tampa Bay is they don't get Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson involved enough to be a threat down the field. I mean, it's mainly on play action plays and things like that. And the further you go into the season, they're going to start taking away that running game. It's just going to be, it's not going to be productive. Jameis Winston is definitely progressing though. He's definitely progressing. Number 1 draft pick, a lot of scrutiny that came about him as far as maturity and things like that, but he's on the arc. Him and Mariota are showing why they were, the top 2 quarterbacks in that draft, right? Yeah. So then you move to Carolina. You talk about Carolina going 15-1 last year. The defense, they lost Josh Norman. So far they've lost Cam Newton, Jonathan Stewart. When you lose a lot of skilled players, right, it's hard to replace that type of production. Now, what Cam brings to you is the fact that he can run the ball as well as throw the ball.
Right.
Derek Anderson doesn't have that. Right. So it's a little bit easier to defend. But the thing that's hurting Carolina right now is that defense is not playing up to where they were playing last year.
The defense, I would go on. I would say that probably 80% of Tampa's runs were up the middle. Right. And they were just gashing
them. Absolutely.
I mean, the holes were opening up. The defensive line was getting no push into the backfield. They're getting no penetration on the quarterback, which puts so much pressure on a young, nameless secondary right now. Right. Okay. These guys are trying their best to hold their own. I think Worley got beat once by Mike Evans, got bit on the fake, and Mike Evans scored a touchdown on him. But the defense, that's the story here. Yeah. Okay, because you look at this is the first team so far this season they've held to under 20 points. Right. And they lost. They still lost. Yeah. So you look at all the other teams, they beat Arizona. But Arizona still scored. San Francisco, and San Francisco still scored 20 plus points. Right. So they're not holding anybody. They're not stopping anybody, and that's the problem. Cam Newton being out, yes, obviously a big problem. His production hasn't been where it should be this year, anyways. But I don't think Cam Newton's the problem.
Well, here's the thing. So you have Shaq Thompson, Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis. You have your linebacker core. Yeah. You have your front 4 that's still in the game.
They were in, but there were a lot of times where, those guys were on the sidelines. And I think that was Ron Rivera basically saying, look, you guys aren't doing your job. We had a lot of guys cycling in on that defensive line last night who were, some were making plays. Right. And, Kawan Short, he was sitting out late in the game on a couple plays. You're like, why isn't he in the game? Yeah. And, those guys just aren't getting the push they need to make any quarterback scared to do anything. Yeah. I
mean, they only registered, they had 2 sacks yesterday. They had 4 quarterback hits yesterday that they registered as a defense. And you're used to seeing more of that. Yeah. Especially with someone like Jameis Winston, who is not really going to take off and run the ball that much. So sitting here now at 1-4. Yeah. Is Carolina looking forward to the draft? or do they believe that they can get back in this thing? In your opinion, as a fan?
I don't think we've seen over the last couple years teams start out real hot.
Right.
Okay.
We saw Atlanta do that last year.
We saw Atlanta do that last year. They started out so hot, and we'll talk about Atlanta going forward. I don't know what their record was. I think they were
7-0.
7-0.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they just kind of fell off the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Only if something like that happens will that leave a window for Carolina to get in. The problem is they're depending on everyone else to stumble.
Yeah.
And that's not a position you want to be in.
You want to be in.
I still think they can get better. But a lot of their issues aren't necessarily the players. It's the penalty, it's the discipline of the team. Right. We had 4 turnovers last night.
Yeah.
Teddy Williams ran into Ted Ginn receiving a punt. Ted Ginn dropped the ball. He called for a fair catch. Why are you still blocking down the field? He called for a fair catch. Okay, why would you even be that close enough to run into him? And just one instance where I want to get on Ron Rivera about is last 2 minutes of the game. We had Tampa Bay pinned down. Stopped them on first and second down, called a timeout. Right. Okay. They converted on third down. So it's like, all right, I think it was like 50 seconds left or something like that. We're going to play for overtime.
To go into overtime.
They get to a third down again. Tampa does. Carolina calls a timeout. Yeah. With like 40 seconds left.
Yeah, they did.
I'm like, what are you doing? What are you going to do with the ball with one timeout left? Right. With, let's say 20, 30 seconds left.
Crazier things have happened.
20, 30 seconds left. What are you going to do? Why are you stopping the clock for them? And that enabled Tampa to get themselves together, get down the field.
They sure did. And they were surprised.
They were surprised. Like, why are you? Yeah. And it's things like that puts Ron Rivera's decision-making and this entire coaching staff's decision-making into question. Yeah. It's like you can't keep saying we're going to get better if you don't get better as a coaching staff and get this team where they need to be.
Yeah. It's and the bad thing about it is that the kicker had already missed 2
in
the game. So if it's going to be anything, you get your defense in a position where they're going to have to kick a long field goal.
Put the pressure on them. Let them kick a 40 plus yarder.
Yeah, because he had already missed a 30
down there to 20 yards.
Right.
Come on, man.
And just seeing that. Here's my thing about Carolina. How far do you go with Ron Rivera? I understand he's just fresh off of a Super Bowl run last year, but prior to that, before they made it into the playoffs as a 7-9 team,
yeah, he was stumbling.
He was stumbling a lot. He was almost there was the Bill Cowher. Yeah, everyone was talking about him because he has a home down on the
That's
coast.
Right.
How far do you go with this team? I mean, I understand you have the injuries with Cam and Jonathan Stewart and so on and so forth, but
Ron's going to have to prove that he can get this team together without Cam.
Right.
And he's going to have to make us believe that he's not just leaning on Cam Newton, which is what this team has done.
Yeah. Well, I mean he's the franchise.
Back last year, what was the big name for the Carolina Panthers last year? Ted Ginn. Haven't heard his name called once this year. Yeah. Okay. Not able to get the ball down the field to him. It
was a revival year for Ted last year.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. The team is just really a total shell of itself. Yeah. And, hopefully, we can say we can get guys back and it'll get better. Right. But it's not going to stop people from making dumb penalties in crucial situations.
Well, the next game up, you got the Saints who come in with an offense. Yeah. They don't have much of a defense, so that could help your offense. Yeah. Then you have the Cardinals. They're trying to get back off of the schneid. Right. And then after that, you have the Rams going to L.A., a team that's playing a little bit better than what people had actually predicted them to play. Yeah. I promise you this. If they lose against the Saints, the Cardinals, and the Rams, Ron Rivera will be out.
I think he will too. I don't think I give him 2 or 3 more games, and a decision is probably going to be made on him going forward.
Absolutely. From a doom and gloom story, let's just turn it around to one of the hottest teams in the league right now. Winners of the last 8 regular season games. That's right. They have their brand new beautiful stadium up there in Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings. They win again.
Yeah.
And they're doing it with their defense, but Sam Bradford isn't looking half bad.
Yo, the outcry of the number one first round pick for Sam Bradford was loud.
Yeah.
And it's paying dividends for me.